So day one, day two, we've talked about industries, we've talked about export, importing, we've talked about manufacturing, but I think we all really do appreciate that none of this is going to happen if we don't have the right healthy population to support economic growth. And we all can say we want to fly to the moon, we want to do that, but health is wealth. So, there's no way we could have a conversation like this where I didn't feel a need for us to have a dialogue of what's the future of healthcare in Africa. And the next panelist will help us understand what's happening from an innovation standpoint, from an access standpoint. And please join me in welcoming to the stage Princess Dr. Moradeu. Thank you so much. And Princess Moradeu, she's, yes, a princess, and she comes from a line of royalty in Nigeria. Welcome, my dear. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tony. Love you.
Thank you.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Definitely a healthy nation is definitely a wealthy nation. I'm so happy to be here with you all this afternoon. It's been a great program, isn't it? You know, I've been in Arkansas over 30-something years. We've been doing conferences here and there, trying to get things done here. We were very successfully able to do it one piece at a time. That is, we'll do health, or you do business, you do every segment separately. But look at this. A woman comes along, a magnificent woman, a phenomenal woman, Miss Toyin Umesiri. She's been able to combine all of the things that we've been doing, singularly. She's been able to combine it all together into this powerful program. Please give her a round of applause. You are so phenomenal woman. Now, I'm so happy, and I'll be so remiss if I don't mention my very good friend. This lady, she is the arm and the leg of a lot of things, but she stays very quietly in the background. If I try to take pictures with her, because everybody that knows me know I love to take pictures, especially selfies. But if I try to take pictures with her, she says, "No, Dion, I'm in the witness program." But she's not. Miss Denise Thomas from the Arkansas World Trade Center. Love you. As we come to this segment about it takes a world, that is our role in delivering modern healthcare in medicine. I can begin to start this without first mentioning the fact that my organization, African Women's Health Project International, my area of focus is in women. I'm a little bit biased, of course. I'm a woman. But one thing I want you to just say is that before I bring up the rest of the panel, because I put on a lot of programs about women empowerment all around the nation, and especially being the chairman of the Global Council of Women for Development at the UN, I have to always talk about women empowerment first. And I want you to just go with me for a second. Just think for a minute. If you could play God and create the perfect leader of our time, what will this person look like? You will want this person to be wise, able to comprehend many sides of complicated issues. You will want the person to be able to create novel and innovative solutions to problems. You will want the perfect leader to be working for the good of the whole group, not just for personal glory. The perfect leader will inspire others by understanding their perspectives, capitalizing on their strength, and overcoming their weaknesses. And of course, the perfect leader will persist until the job was done, even if it was done meant for personal sacrifice. Guess what? You've just described a woman. And you've just described Toyin. You've described Denise. You've described Dudu. You've described some of these incredible women that you have here in this room. But right now, at this time, I'd like to bring to the stage with us our incredible panelists. These are huge companies here that are doing some tremendous work in African nations. So, ladies and gentlemen, help me in welcoming Mr. Boyd Knott, founder of Legend Trek. And he's actually a chief. He's a chief in Cameroon. So, Mr. Boyd Knott, please come up here. He's the founder of Legend Trek. Mr. Jason Carney, the founder of Second Milk. And Dr. Adeniyi Osamiliyu, founder and CEO of Premier Medical System in Nigeria. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you so much.
Now, we're here, discussing about health, because we know that a healthy nation is a wealthy nation. When you look at, even when they're talking about developing countries or developed countries, one of the major significant difference between the two are the access to healthcare for the people in their community. Before we start, I'd like for each of us to actually talk about different organizations and what we do. And I'm going to start from Dr. Adeniyi. So.
All right. Thank you so much. My name is Niyi Oshamili. I graduated as a medical doctor. I used to practice until about 5 years ago. Due to a couple of reasons, frustration with the system and everything, I left my job. I've always been passionate about technology. I learned programming, and I built a social network of doctors in Nigeria. While I used to work, I worked in a lot of isolated areas, and there were times, I wanted second opinion and things like that, and I wasn't getting it. And I felt it was, and I've always been passionate about technology, so I built a social network of doctors, and that, fast forward to 5 years, it has grown to 11,000 Nigerian doctors. It's the biggest social network for doctors in Africa. Thank you. I also do work in the area of maternal and infant mortality. We built a mobile technology platform. It leverages mobile technology to deliver stage-based messages to expectant and new mothers. So pretty much like a what to expect when you're expecting, however, leveraging mobile technology, which is appropriate technology in Africa. Thank you.
I feel like that I missed the memo today, the fact that I'm a man, not a woman, and then also what I'm wearing. So, next year.
We'll get you your dashiki.
Yes, remind me. I'm Jason Carney. I am the Vice President of Global Sales for Blue Sun Vacations here in Northwest Arkansas. I reside here in charge of sending folks to Africa most of the time for the first time. Experiencing Africa from a tourism perspective, also the founder and president of Second Milk, an NGO that was started in Malawi, Africa, and has since grown to Kenya, Uganda, and also Ghana and West Africa. And so we provide formula and nutrition for babies when their moms die. I'm sure that most of the people in this room that don't live here in the United States have probably been touched by a similar story, in your country, in your village, where your family comes from. And so, we come alongside these families. Our priority is to allow children to stay with their biological families and not be sent into an institution. And we do that by obviously providing the nutritional needs that they have. We also create sustainable protein projects, a lot of what Donnie Smith and the guys at Tyson had talked about, and One Egg as well with Ms. Huffman. We do a similar type of thing with small chicken houses as well as piggeries in the same villages that our children are coming from, so we can provide local protein and local jobs. We use the income from selling chickens and eggs to send those same children, once they become school age, to private schools so they can get the best education possible. So it's a little bit about what we do and who I am.
Can you hear me? Okay, good. My African name is Laji. I got that name in the time I was working and living in Mali in 2007 and 2008, and I asked them, what does Laji mean? And they said, well, Laji means that's the man who's been to Mecca. And I said, well, that's interesting. I'm Southern Baptist. It really probably doesn't fit me. But he was quick to point out that Laji is actually a term that they would use for honoring somebody. So that was okay. So when I communicate with my African friends, I usually sign my email with Laji. And they named my wife Miriam. I didn't ask them what Miriam meant, but I guess it's good. Why I'm wearing this outfit today is I was doing eye clinics in Cameroon this past December, and I was fortunate to meet the chief or king of one of the areas we were working in, and his name is King Jean Condu. And when I knew I was going to participate in this summit, I communicated with the king and said, you know, we're going to be doing this. Is there anything you'd like for me to say on your behalf? And I asked him that because while I was there, he gave a party for all of my team, and he designated me a shabu. And you might say, what is a shabu? I didn't know either, so I had to ask, of course, and I found out that every king in Cameroon has a council, they call it, usually 12 men, and they're his main advisors, no matter how big his kingdom is. And then he has another level of advisors they call shibu. So I was very grateful for him granting us that recognition, and I said, now that I'm a shibu, I guess I'll be representing you in Arkansas. And he said, yeah. And he said, the only thing I want you to tell the people at that summit is tell them that Cameroon is open for business. And he was a fairly young guy. I guess he's in his 40s, and I found that he's very much like the other leaders I met in Cameroon. They're very open-minded, and they want only the best for their people, no matter what form that assistance takes. So that's a good thing, too, I think, because you think sometimes they're closed-minded to foreign investment and foreign assistance in many ways. But in healthcare especially, they're very open-minded, and they welcome anything. If you would humor me just for a moment, would everyone shut your eyes? Just close your eyes for just a moment. You're all blind now. Now imagine how you're going to get home or to your hotel. You're blind. You can open your eyes now. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to scare you. There is a hard, cold fact, though. How many humans are in this room? Raise your hand if you're human. I hope there's not anything. I can guarantee you, each one of you humans in this room, that if you live long enough, you will get cataracts in your eyes and you will go blind. It is a fact of the human body. In Africa, there are 9 million blind people. And I'm talking primarily about sub-Sahara Africa. And there are 27 million Africans in that area who are severely visually impaired. Now, that is over 35 million people out of the workforce. What would be the shot in the arm if they gained their vision back and could join the workforce and be productive again in their lives? What would that mean to them personally, to their families, and to the entire nation they live in? When I lived in Mali, there was an intersection that was very famous for us foreigners, and we called it Beggar's Corner. And it mainly consisted of persons who were standing on the street corner in that sector, and they were begging. And I noticed on every person that I saw there were blind. Each one had a child at their elbow who was their caretaker and guided them around the city. There were 2 people there out of the workforce, and the child was not going to school. Blindness is a severe problem. It affects every human. It affects every country. 90% of the visually impaired people in the world are in the developing countries. A high proportion of those who are visually impaired or blind are in Africa. We've got to do something to fix that. Okay? Now, I've been in this thing now with Legentrex doing vision clinics for 9 years. I've been continually frustrated, and it doesn't matter whether it's Africa or South America, frustrated by this one problem. I can go to the communities or villages, and we can screen their eyes. We can give them near vision assistance with readers, but I see so many who have cataracts or other visual impairments that I can't fix. And believe it or not, I can tell them 50 miles away, I have an ophthalmologist who can cure your blindness. It will be free. It won't cost you anything. Will you go? Initially, they say, yeah, sure. 99% of them never go. And you say, why? They would have sight, and it costs them nothing. There are a lot of cultural and other reasons why they do not go. I'll give you one example from Peru. I kept butting my head against the wall on this problem in Peru, and I finally asked somebody, why won't that woman go to Cusco and get her cataracts repaired? And they said, well, this is one of the stories. Between 1996 and 2000, the president of Peru was Fujimori. You probably heard the name. Fujimori had a program where he had an idea to decrease poverty in the nation of Peru. He would reduce the birth rate of poor people. How he did this was forced sterilizations of women and men. During those 4 years, 270,000 women were sterilized forcibly by his regime. 22,000 men were sterilized. So they said, boy, here's the problem. You say you will take them to Cusco to have free eye care. They have very bright memories of when they were told, we will take you to Cusco at no cost and give you health care. Wow. And resulted in sterilizations. That's very strong in their memory. So I'm just saying, even in Africa, there are severe reasons why people are not getting care. Wow. The big problem in Africa, and this is true in all the developing countries, the problem is this. The World Health Organization says that you should have at least 5 ophthalmologists per million people. And that's not very many. In Africa, the number is less than 1 per million. Wow. In Mali, it was my first exposure to this problem. Mali at the time had 13 million citizens. There were 4 ophthalmologists in all of Mali. So in other words, there were only 4 doctors who could do cataract surgery. 3 of those doctors lived in Bamako, the capital city. That left 1 ophthalmologist for 12 million people. So you wonder why so many cases of blindness in Africa. We've got a big problem. I finally had a light come on in Cameroon in December about one of the solutions to this availability. There's such a problem getting the patient to the doctor. I said, we're going to reverse that. We'll take the doctor to the patient. And I came across a model that we're trying to pursue in Cameroon, possibly Nigeria, where we have a mobile eye hospital. Started in Armenia with the Armenian Eye Care Project. They've got an 18-wheeler. Took it to New Hampshire, had it turned into a mobile eye hospital. It's called the Armenian Eye Care Project. It's been operating in Armenia now for 12 years. It's very successful. Africa needs that.
Yes, yes.
So,
Boyd, I think you're about to get the music on you.
yeah, I hear music. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
yes.
I get started talking
So-
about eye care and I can't shut up.
That's understandable. That's understandable. Now, one of the things I'm one of those, I think yesterday we had a lot of conversation going on about Africans that came over here and stayed. And just like Toyin, I was one of those. I came to Little Rock, Arkansas, actually, to go to University of Arkansas at Little Rock in 1985. And I stayed. So, but one of the things I wanted to mention about with the organization, I'm the founder and CEO of the African Women's Health Project International. Originally, when I stayed, my focus at that time, because my first degree was in journalism, and then I turned that into being an entrepreneur. So I turned that into doing fashion shows and doing cultural engagements all around the state. Now, it was in 1997 when, during a visit back home after the death of my grandmother, that even though, from 85 to 1997, all I was promoting was the culture and the beauty of Africa and the fashion. So you can see, so it's all part of me. But in 1997, I went back home, and I think, you don't think about some of these things sometimes. Sometimes you are in an environment and you don't really see the difference. Then you go to a different environment, you get acclimated to that environment, to how things are operated over there. Then you now come back to the other environment and you see the big difference. We just finished my grandmother's burial, and we were at the beach. And out of the corner of my eye, there was a little boy he was in a tattered clothing. It was less than 7 years old, 6, 7 years old. And he was in tattered clothing. And we had just finished eating, and so we had some food discarded on the sand, on the ground. But this young boy was going to where the food was on the floor, and he was eating it with the sand and all, and putting some in his clothing. Now, the locals over there, maybe just being used to, it's just a scavenger or whatever, just a loose one. So they shooed him away. Now, the little boy now went, and it just caught my eye out of the side, and I followed him to where he was going. And where he was going was his mother was under a shack, not too far off. She had about 5 or 6 other children with her. They were all younger than the little boy, and the mother was breastfeeding a child out of one breast. She had a wrapper wrapped underneath. So there was a baby a little bit over 1 year old that was feeding out of one breast. The breast, you can see there wasn't much milk there, but she was feeding the baby, and the other breast was gangrene. It was oozing. I think that was the first time in my life that it hit me that, there's some things that just not, that we have to do something. So, of course, and having a journalism background, I enlisted my younger brother, who is a physician in Houston, and some of my friends. I have a host of friends that are medical doctors. I've decided that we have to do something. That woman had breast cancer. It was just a matter of time before she went. And of course, when she goes like that, what happened to our children? And one of the things we found out with African Women's Health Project International was birth, not long after that. And one of the things that we found out was that there were women that had 5, 6, or 7 children. They've never had a pap smear, they've never gone to the doctor. When they get pregnant, they have maybe like a midwife. Maybe they see a midwife when they get ready to have the baby. And everything is just done, and And that's one of the reasons why when you have the high infant mortality rate, you know, that's one of the reasons why, you know, we're talking about all these different gentlemen over here talking about healthcare. So our area of focus, African Women's Health Project International is a 501c3 organization right here in Houston, in Little Rock, Arkansas. Started from here because, you know, what I did was when I came back, and since I know basically everybody else that knows somebody else that knows somebody else. So I enlisted everybody together, and I know that. So we came up with the mission. Our mission is dedicated to bringing health and healing to citizens in impoverished areas. And then to find a way to strengthen the healthcare delivery system among women. And of course, most importantly, to be able to procure medical and surgical supplies and equipments for donations to medical facilities in the different areas that we go to. And we do this by actually going on annual medical mission to different African nations. We have one set up to go in March of 2019. And with that one, because breast cancer was really killing a lot of our women, and we decided that we are going to, by the time 2019 March, we're going to actually take 5 mammogram screening machines to those areas. So we need your help and all your partners in that. But you know, that's one of the things we do. Our area of focus is in breast and cervical cancer screening. We want to make sure that we do the medical screening each year so that we can, at least a woman can actually have an annual checkup every year, at least once a year, so that, you know, a lot of the things that might creep up later, because we know that, you know, screening is definitely the best way to go about. Now, one of the things I wanted to pose these questions to you all, because we know this, especially working in the healthcare field. I might have started from journalism, and then, of course, because I go on medical missions so many times, I did go to nursing school. I went to nursing school. By the time I finished nursing school, I realized that I don't have the anointing for as a nurse. Because, you know, you have to have an anointing. You have to have the real anointing to be a nurse. Nurses are the most important people, care delivery, when you look at it. And you really have to have the anointing for that. So, but I know I can talk, and we can definitely get information around. So being an advocacy is definitely second to that. So now, so then instead of finishing, I finished with it, but I didn't take this the exam. I went ahead and got my master's in public health, because I know that we have to do research and advocacy, right? And of course, just completed my PhD. So thank you. And to all the nurses in this room, please give them a round of applause. Anointing. So let me ask you this. What is the connection between a healthy nation and economic prosperity? How will you take that? I'll start with Dr. Denny.
All right. Thank you so much. I'll quickly say something that the Honorable Minister of Health in Nigeria said. So when they get to the Federal Executive Council meeting and everybody's advocating for money, what he used to say about trying to get more money and budgetary allocation for health, he would say if they don't budget money, a lot of people will die in health. But what happened was everybody learned that. So the Minister of Works will say, if you don't build roads, people will die. Mm-hmm. And the Minister of Transport too will say, if you don't fix things in the airport and stuff, people will die. So he wasn't getting as much as what he wanted. So he realized if he wanted to get more money, more allocation, he had to make a business case for health. What is the connection between health and economic prosperity? What is the connection between health and growth? And indeed, health and economic growth, they are intertwined. They are interlinked. You can look at it this way and say, when there is economic growth, there can be a country is able to invest more in the health of its people. It's able to provide universal health coverage like you have in the UK and some extent, or to a larger extent, in the US. In Nigeria, universal health coverage is just 5%. On the other side, the Minister of Health now makes a case and says, if you invest in health and you are able to reduce the life expectancy or increase the life expectancy by 1 year, you are able to increase output by 4%. And so when they make this kind of statements, it appears people are more willing to listen. Thank you.
I lived in Malawi, Africa for some time, and we had a lot of opportunities to experience the local healthcare centers and hospitals that were in that country. And I don't know how many people here understand or know much about Malawi, but the last 3 or 4 years, it's been the #1 poorest country in the world. So I don't say that to drive everyone down and be depressed, but this white guy, it was very hard for us to live in an environment like that, but was also very knowledgeable and educational, I guess I should say, for us and our family and how that we can serve and help the people on the continent of Africa. One of the things I researched recently was that Sub-Saharan Africa accounts for 13% of the world's population, yet bears 24% of the global disease burden and only 2% of the world's doctors. So you think about that math and those equations, that doesn't really work well for this mindset around healthcare throughout Africa and seeing the success of that. I think they also estimate that it would require about $25 to $30 billion of investment capital to be able to, and that's in healthcare assets only, but would be needed to make a change throughout the continent. And so the question of the connection between a healthy nation and economic prosperity, I would finish my answer by saying that without economic prosperity and economic development, there will be no change in the mindset or the current state of the healthcare in Sub-Saharan Africa.
Excellent.
Well, when I got into healthcare, I was living in Mali and flew all over West Africa and observing the different situations in each country. We came back to Arkansas and decided we wanted to do something in Africa, and we decided, what area will we work and help? And my country director there came up with the conclusion that the greatest need was vision care. And I found that in most government health programs, vision care is towards the bottom of the priority list. I don't know why. Because you think that's a no-brainer. People need to see to work. And I never really put it in an economic sense. I just thought it was a no-brainer. We don't want blind people, right? We want people to see. But you have to convince governments, hey, there's an economic reason why people should see. Just recently, I was interested in hearing Dale and Scott, Donnie talk. I'm very proud of the fact that they're Arkansans. That didn't have to happen. It's a great thing. Proud of that. And not long ago, there was a vision screening team that went into the Rwanda trading company that Scott has, and they screened them 250 employees, I think, that he had there, and many of them needed eyeglasses to do their job better. And the conclusion was that after them getting their vision repaired and improved, their productivity went up by 11%, just by getting readers. So we've got to realize there's an economic reason for people to see. They interviewed one gentleman who was working at the gate where the trucks came in and out and employees came in and out of the plant. And he reluctantly said, often when I'm checking off the list of people here, I have to get someone else to read it to me because I can't read it. I can't see the words. He got a pair of eyeglasses. Now he does it alone. It's such a simple thing, and cataract surgery takes 10 minutes. You can go from total blindness to sight in 10 minutes.
Wow.
That's a miracle. That's biblical, okay?
That is excellent.
Yeah.
Now, let me ask you this. In your own view, what are the critical problems in the healthcare space that each of you are in Africa? And what can we learn, or how can we partner with American businesses?
All right, thank you so much. So, healthcare generally, there's so many problems in terms of human resources, in terms of infrastructure. You look at the number of doctors, number of healthcare workers in Africa, whether it's doctors or nurses. So this makes it critical to leverage technology. How can we increase access to quality care, leveraging technology? That makes telemedicine important. For example, in Nigeria, WHO says a doctor to 600 people. In Nigeria, you've got a doctor to like 5,000 people. So the question in terms of partnerships and things like that, how can we leverage technology, telemedicine and things like that? How can we make it increase access, to care in Nigeria and in Africa?
When I think of what most people in Malawi at the time when living there, they would share with me about hospitals and healthcare centers is it was a place to die. It wasn't a place to get healthcare. I think a lot of the reason was based on the availability or the lack thereof of medications and proper doctors and such. But also, there was private hospitals and things from, area to area that could be paid for, but the problem was that the local people didn't have any sustainable income whatsoever. And so, you think about from a Second Milk perspective and how do we get involved. I think that, our take on how we help is we're helping give life. If we did not do what we did, there would be thousands of babies that would be dead. And so if you don't have people, there's really no need for health care. So we're trying to raise up a new generation of leaders that are educated and the proper nutrition has been given to them to where they can be leaders of change in the future. Just in 3 years, in February, we had given just over, I guess, our 1 millionth bottle of formula. And so, you think about numbers, and we throw a lot of statistics out here, but 1 million baby bottles is not a small task in such developing areas. And so, I think that a lot of what was talked about yesterday was trust, and a lot of at least within the space of NGOs and nonprofits that are working directly with the local people, I think from a perspective of American business and the trust or the idea of not having trust or not having knowledge of how to do work in Africa, I think there's a bridge there that would allow American businesses to close the gap on being able to do work and provide sustainability in Africa.
Okay, excellent.
That's a good question. It's difficult to have a non-government organization or charity anywhere in the world. You've got to rely on people that trust you and your integrity, that you're going to produce. It's been a result of a recent study that if you are a philanthropist or a corporation, you contribute to eye care, that the return is like 30 to 1 on your dollar. That's pretty good. So I'll tell you a little story about corporate reasons for helping in humanitarian things. In Peru, they had a national soda. It's called Inca Cola. It was owned by a Peruvian family. The whole nation was so proud of the fact that Peruvians owned that company from the beginning. And for years, Coca-Cola and Pepsi have been trying to purchase that company. They reluctantly did it 3 or 4 years ago. There's still hard feelings towards Coca-Cola in Peru because they took a family country drink, a brand that everyone knew, and this American corporation comes in and buys it up, and there it goes again, And I would love to sit down with a Coca-Cola fella and say, hey, you got a bad reputation in Peru. I know your drink is great. I drink Coke. You got a problem in Peru with your brand because of what's happened. Nothing could help your brand more than when we go do eye clinics, let the people know that Coca-Cola is one of the sponsors. There's no telling what that could do to help your reputation. It's a win-win situation. You're helping people see, and you're helping your brand. So corporations can get in with partnerships and collaborations with charitable organizations such as ours. You can't do anything but help your brand. And you can, if you're introducing your brand to a region, what better way to introduce your brand with that collaboration? If you want to enhance your brand, what better way to enhance your brand? It's a 30-to-1 return. I mean, can't businessmen see that? I don't think they think about it that way.
That is so awesome. Because, and that brings me to the next question, which is, how should American development partners, that is we heard from the USAID just earlier today, or Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, or the Clinton Health Initiatives, UNICEF, and business partners, how can they support African NGOs and private sectors in private sector healthcare players all across the world? How do you see that?
Yeah. Okay. I think what is critical. So in health, for me, I think three things are very critical in health. Impact is critical. Sustainability is very critical, and scalability. A lot of development partners are working in Africa, without it, across Africa, whether it's USAID, the FID of the UK, Bill and Melinda Gates, and things like that. What I will say to them, and potentially businesses too, it's important to partner with both the private sector and the NGO, because, okay, so I work mainly as a private sector player. What I think the private sector brings to this is they bring innovative business delivery service delivery models. It's key for programs to be sustainable. Yeah, you can do this somewhere. You can run these pilots in a particular town, but how is that program sustainable? And I think that is something that the private sector is good at, sustainability. Also, it's important that you don't use this, when you come in with so much capital, you don't crowd out the private sector. So, for example, the private sector is working in maternal health and has brought out something that is sustainable, and you come with all the money and you make it free. So nobody's going to patronize the people in the private sector. So you've got to look at how you can create a balance. Yes, Africa wants aid, but we have to look at how can we make it sustainable. And I think it's key. The NGOs are doing fantastic, unbelievable work. They are going where the government won't go, yeah? But you've got to look at how you can create a balance, NGO and private sector. Thank you.
I have a quick story to tell based on your comments about Coke. One of my first trips out of the country of the United States was to Haiti, and this was 10 or 12 years ago. And I remember, it was 104 degrees or, 40 plus degrees for the Celsius. It was very, very hot, and I was sweating a lot. And a lady walks up with a cooler on the top of her head, and she opens it up, and it had a block of ice in it and Coca-Cola. And I thought, well, if Coca-Cola can touch the ends of the earth, then there's opportunity. And so my perception was changed. And then I moved to Malawi, and I was a little bit addicted to Mountain Dew, which is back there in that cooler, and I've been not drinking Mountain Dew for a few years. I actually had one yesterday, so do not tell my wife. But when I made it to Malawi, I realized really quickly that all they had was Coke. And so I was a bit frustrated that Coca-Cola owned that market. But then I went to Tanzania, to Dar es Salaam, and I found a glass bottle of Mountain Dew. I really thought that I was in heaven, not the restaurant or whatever it was they were talking about yesterday, but I'm truly in heaven. And so I asked a lady if she would travel to Tanzania, pick me up 6 cases, so I was thinking there were 60 bottles. There was a little bit of a misunderstanding. I ended up with 300 bottles of Mountain Dew. But once again, it opened my eyes, and my perception had changed about Africa. And so, I think about, the different organizations, the larger ones, the Clinton Foundation, which I know is in Malawi. Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation also have been working working against AIDS and I believe malaria. most of those organizations want to make change in the continent, within the continent of Africa. I think that, when you look at me and how maybe I look a little different than the doctor to my left, most of those organizations are going to say, what do I know about making change inside of a country in Africa? And, you think about Second Milk and that perspective of how we help. It's not me. Everything is ran by Africans. Africa and Malawi, Kenya, Uganda, Ghana, those aren't my countries. I'm an American. I'm proud to be an American, but I'm also proud to say that I serve in another continent and in other countries with people that I love dearly. But I believe that it's very important for them to partner with NGOs, because we, as an organization, and my team, my African staff, they run everything, but they have the pulse and they understand the heartbeat of what's going on with the local people, not me. So just my 2 cents.
Excellent. Excellent.
When I was living in Bamako, Mali, we lived in kind of the international sector, I guess you would call it. And there were a number of NGOs that were present in that neighborhood. Either their employees living there or their offices were located there. You know what my initial impression of NGOs was?
Yeah.
They have some really nice white Land Cruisers. I never knew what they were doing. I knew they lived pretty well, and I knew they had these nice white Land Cruisers. And I said, man, they must be rolling in the dough, because they got all these Land Cruisers. I know what Land Cruisers cost over here. So I'm sure they were doing good. It was just that it wasn't being advertised to the population well enough. So there's no better way to help us spread the word and get things done in a more positive way than to collaborate with corporations who are in the countries. They know the land, they have the resources, they have the brains to make anything work. Walmart is a perfect example. When you talk about how Sam started Walmart, he went out and got the best talent he could buy. Distribution was a key. Computerization was a key. But he had the sense to know that he didn't know it all, but he found people who did. So we need to find some way better to link up with corporations as we do our work. It helps the corporation. Obviously, it helps us. Because there's nothing more difficult as a nonprofit than to get reliable resources to help you do your work. It's very difficult. When we do academic scholarships in Mali for girls, I just pray every year that the same people who are with me on scholarships will be with me next year. Because if they back out, there's a girl that's out of school. So you're always worried about reliable sponsors who have the resources to make a difference with you. So if anybody here wants to invest, that's a good way to do it. Get your money, your return 30 to 1.
30 to 1.
Walmart even understands that. So, collaborate with NGOs, have transparency, and advertise what you're doing to the population.
Thank you so much. That is so wonderful, because that brings me to my last question. And the last question is just really, I just want to appeal. It's like, how can organizations such as ours, because when you look at on this panel over here, we're doing specific things for specific in a specific area in healthcare. How can we come together to achieve a higher impact of care? And one of the ways I would want to suggest too is this. I don't know if everybody has seen this. We have a medical mission going to Africa, going to Nigeria actually, in March of 2019. Now, I would like to invite each and every one of your organizations, to actually go on with us on this to the medical mission in Nigeria. And with that, if you don't have an inroad into Nigeria already, this is an opportunity to actually do that, to create a second milk in Nigeria, to create, to create Legend Treks in Nigeria, and of course you're already in Nigeria. But but I think that's one of the things that we can do. We can do some things to actually impact it. But I would like to maybe throw open the floor to see if there's any question. If we can get one question.
Thank you. The employees like to be involved in something special. They like to know that they're making a difference. And a lot of people work in small businesses because they feel they have more meaning, they can make a big difference, they're not, in a big organization. So I think, getting with chambers of commerce and getting their members involved is a good thing to do. And I'm glad that you brought up the blindness. People don't think about it. I never thought about it until about 5 years ago when I had 3 retinal detachments, and I was afraid of going blind, and I was saved by a doctor here in Springdale. So I'm glad that you brought that up, because people really don't think about their vision until they're maybe losing it. Yes. So thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. That is such a wonderful, a powerful comment that she made over there. Because even with African Women's Health Project International, that one of the ways we were able to do some of the things that we did was we were listed under the Cardinal Health Care. The employees actually make donations to our organizations, and so with the different companies, whether big or small, the employees want to be a part of something bigger. So I think that's really great.
If I might add, Walmart has a great program that I'm aware of locally, because my son has a charity that works in this area and around the country. And Walmart has a great program for their employees, where if their employees contribute time to helping a charity, Walmart gets involved in that in a monetary way. That's a phenomenal program, and I don't know whether they're doing it if somebody wants to go to an international mission trip, where they help them with that, but that might be something they could think about, because anywhere you go in this town or this whole state, especially up here in Northwest Arkansas, the philanthropy you see every day from Walmart founders, Walmart employees, it is phenomenal. I can't say enough about them and Tyson's. So they didn't have to do that.
Awesome. Okay, yes. Yeah.
Can I say one thing about technology real quick? I've just recently become aware of how there's a company in England right now who has developed a phenomenal piece of technology. In Africa, more people have cell phones than have toilets. This company has developed a system where you can take a cell phone, smartphone, you can attach a small device to that cell phone, and you can do a complete eye exam. Previously, it's taken huge pieces of equipment, very expensive equipment, to do this. They can now do it with a smartphone. I priced one of them last night. It's $270. You can examine a person's eye and look at their retina. You can test their acuity in 10 minutes. And you can train any nurse or healthcare provider in the communities to operate this system. They can send the pictures anywhere in the world to a specialist. It is phenomenal. So technology is going to help us, I know in high care, tremendously when we get a hold of that equipment.
Excellent, excellent. I think they wanted you to repeat your question, your comment.
Well, I was just wanting to say to recognize Africa as an innovator in medical field and healthcare as well. The first heart transplant was done in Africa. Telemedicine from Cameroon and Ghana, they are in cutting edge of innovating in that field. And then the old remedies that have been there for centuries. Now pharmaceutical companies from Europe and the US are going to Africa. So Africa has things to offer as well as needing health care.
Excellent. And I think that concludes our section. Thank you so much.